Te amo, Perú. Te amo, Perú. Te amo, Perú. Te amo, Perú.
My name is Alessandra Moctezuma, and I'm the gallery director here at San Diego Mesa College, and I welcome all of you. Thank you very much for coming to see Marcos Ramirez show. Just a few announcements. Those people who are taking this, for coming to the talk for flex credit, you can sign in. There's a sheet right there at on that table, and there's also evaluation forms. So you can do that. And just one more thing, I wanted to thank the Museum and Gallery Exhibition Skills class that helped with the exhibit and the reception today, and also thank Pat Vine, who's gallery coordinator, and Sandra Washer, who also helped enormously to get this done. Well, I feel really honored to have Marcos Ramirez here today. I've known his work since the Inside exhibits, and I've always wanted to bring him to the gallery. It's also exciting to have an installation because a lot of our students, being transfer institution, we do the basic painting and sculpture, but they're not so familiarized with installation work. So it's a wonderful opportunity. And I also thought that the subject matter was really relevant for our art students, but also for the college campus in general. Just a little bit about Marcos Ramirez Erre. He was born in Tijuana, Baja California in 1961. He studied law at the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California. He has exhibited throughout Mexico, in the United States, and Latin America. His most critically acclaimed installations have been Century 21 for Insight 94 and Toy and Horse for Insight 97. How many people saw those pieces? And that's how I became familiar with his work. His most memorable exhibition was Amor como primer idioma, Love as First Language, at the Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego in 1999. And in the year 2000, at the Whitney Biennial, he presented Stripes and Fence Forever, homage to Jasper Johns, a metal structure that was built as if it was the fence that divides Tijuana and San Diego. So a lot of his works have dealt with border issues, Tijuana and San Diego. And this particular one is an exception, although it also talks about cultural misunderstanding, and in that sense, it's I think, similar to the other ones. Marcos Ramirez has recently participated in Away from Home at the Wexner Center for the Arts, Géneros en Tránsito, Passengers in Transit, at Centre Culturel de Mexique in Paris, France. Mixed Feelings, Art and Culture in the Post-Border Metropolis at the Fisher Gallery, University of Southern California in Los Angeles. Política de la Diferencia, Arte Ibero-Americano del Fin del Siglo, at the Pinacoteca Recife de Brasil, Museo Latinoamericano de Buenos Aires, and Latinoamericano de Buenos Aires, Colección Constantini in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's also shown in Santiago de Chile, and his installation that we have here at Mesa College was first shown at Intersection for the Arts in San Francisco, California, later at Iturralde Gallery in Los Angeles, and also just came from the Museum of Contemporary Art in Denver. So I'm sure he has a lot to talk about, so without anything else, I'll introduce you to Marcos Ramirez Erre. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Soy. You here? Bueno, como ya me presentó, soy Marco Ramirez, Erre. I'm from Tijuana. I was born in Tijuana and raised in Tijuana. And I'm going to show you some of the projects that I have been made since the last 10 years to now. And I'm going to show a lot of work, specifically images of Tijuana that they're not work that I've shown before. It's just to exemplify to you how we live on the other side of the border. And then that is a strong part for me in the development of my work. So I'll go with the flow. As I show the images, I want to comment on them and explain a little bit what is the thing that influences me or inspired me. So first, I'm gonna, well, let me add a little bit. I studied in Mexico. I went to law school instead of going to art school. I went to law school, and then eventually I came after I finished, and we had a strong devaluation, economic devaluation in the country, and so I had to emigrate and come to the U.S. and I started working in construction. So I worked in construction for many years, 17 years, and then the last 10 of those 17 I combined them with doing artwork until I reached the point in which I could leave the construction work and then just do what I do now, that I've been doing it for the last 5 years. So maybe you will be able to see some of my background and the work that I'm going to present. So first, this is something that I always take away when I go and make presentations in other places. Maybe you have been able to see this fence that divides the two countries. This is placed right there at the Playas de Tijuana and borders with Imperial Beach, and in your left side. And the right side is the same fence plus the other fence that is being built right now. And I think are going to be 3 fences to keep most of the Mexicans or foreigners that want to cross to this country. Okay, the same fence, and here's the line that we made every day, me and my wife and a lot of about 50,000 people every day that wants to cross the border has to make these long lines coming into the U.S. sometimes from half an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending the day and the hour. Then this is something that represents over there Tijuana. Tijuana was built to entertain. It was a city that was born with a casino, and people used to come to the city to have fun and then go to the bars and go with the ladies and dance and gamble. And so we started to developing a different way or a special way to identify ourselves. So they built this restaurant that is called El Sombrero. That is funny because it represents this ideal Mexico, but also it's a way to contain or to defend our own identity. And then the other example is these charro hats or mariachi hats, the sombreros that they sell at the border, that I especially never seen any mariachi wearing one of those. Those fancy colors. Also, growing in Tijuana and being neighbor with the U.S., the government made a statement or a point to try to keep us very Mexican. So they even made these horrible monuments in Tijuana in which they portrayed this book. Is a monument for the textbook. So only in Mexico. And so you have all these kids, Mexican kids, adoring the book and the flag. And then, so because it was very, very obvious that we were in the very edge of Latin America and the very edge of Mexico, right next to another culture. Okay. So, like in LA, like in East LA, like in every place where Mexicans are, we have in Tijuana paintings and tags and the Virgin of Guadalupe is everywhere, and we have a lot of imagination. So now American culture bleed into the Mexican culture, and as well the Mexican culture is bleeding into the U.S. But it's now very common to see all these figures of Walt Disney and cartoons even into the schools where the kids are being taught. Let me point it really well. Again, the gate coming to Mexico, very small. It's been the same since I remember it. And then the other gate that takes 50,000 people a day. Okay, so we have here Mr. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln in downtown Tijuana, in the urbanized zone, with these super long legs to make it look even taller than what it really was. And also in Rio Tijuana, we want to be like the Rio de Janeiro, you know. So we have our own Christ of Corcovado looking into the Rio Tijuana. It's not that we don't have an identity. We have many identities, or maybe this lack of identity is what identifies. Okay, so I think this is an exaggeration, but that's a common neighborhood, or like a middle class neighborhood in the U.S. Not that everybody lives here in Tijuana like this, but it's amazing how this construction, it's about 2 blocks away from where I was born and raised. That is 10 blocks away from the border, and it was recently removed, but maybe especially because, as you can see, the construction is really poor and horrible. And then you had an advertising from the government saying that it's water and drain for everybody and services for everybody. Well, it's very obvious that a lot of people is left out. So there's been a lot of efforts to do construction, better quality construction in Tijuana, but not with very good results. Even the engineers that come and want to deal with the topography of the city sometimes cannot handle the way the city is. And it seems to me that the systems of construction that the people, the normal people have, work better than the ones that these guys bring. So that's an image 10 years ago from the border, and that's only maybe a mile away from the checkpoint where you cross into the U.S. And then that does not exist anymore, but the city is growing into the east, so there's still people having the fence as the backyard fence from their houses. So I'm going to go through some images of the city. It's not, many of you have been in Tijuana. We have very nice neighborhoods also as well. And but this is what it makes, captures my attention, because the imagination and the creativity of the people to make houses or shelters with a lot of different materials is very interesting for me. So I'm gonna go through some of the houses. So we in Tijuana, we build with almost everything. That's very popular to build things with retaining walls with tires. Material, you can find it everywhere and it's usable. People just grab it and start building with it. So you can have houses of cardboard, you can have houses with pallets. You can have houses with garage doors. How many of your homes have removed the old wooden garage door and now is replaced with these metal sheets that is just retractable, and so all those doors end up in Tijuana or in Rosarito or in Ensenada, and then they sell them and they advertise them as walls, not as garage doors. So you can come and buy your wall for your house. So they buy 5, 6 of those and they just put the square and then put a roof on it, and there you go. So even these leftovers of cars can be used, like in this gentleman that he used the rooftops from the vans or station wagons and vans, even with a hole, the moon roof, and that other guy uses just the hoods of cars to make his fence. More pallets. Tarps. You have these parts of cars, and the seat over there, the couch is just a car couch, and then the very nice windows. But you know, whatever we can find, we can just put it together to make something. Retaining walls again, and then people that they use cardboard. There's a very famous architect, Japanese architect, that uses these same elements to make these very expensive homes. And this guy, I don't know who copied whom, you know. Maybe the Japanese guy came to Tijuana and saw this guy and said, oh, very good idea, you know. Or this guy maybe bought a book about that other Shigeru Ban. So, and then you have houses like this. Like this house is made only with refrigerator doors, while that other one is a house made with doors that has no door. Also, you have these convertible places. You know, there's another group of architects that are doing art now, and Atelier Von Lissou, that's from the Netherlands, and they do these pieces that are like trailers, and they can be lived. You can live on them. But this guy, I don't know as well if he saw the book or what, but the guy made the camper permanent by adding another room to it. So it's a hybrid, you know. And that other guy put the water so the water don't stay in the roof. He put 2 water angles in the top of the trailer. Or you can make a little room, the second floor first, or you can add a house to a small room. And also in some other parts, the urbanization came when the houses were built, so some of the streets are at a higher level than the houses. So that dwarf house over there, the red and blue, looks like for midgets, but you know, it's a regular house that it was there before the road. The same thing happened with this. And then also people, you have mixed uses. You can mix the uses of land and property in Mexico. So these guys, they made their grocery stores, and then they built a house on top. So this guy here, which is also my relative, he built a California dream house on top of his store. Yeah. And that other guy bought many different parts of a garage door to make the second floor house. More of that. Particularly this guy, I like the way he used the doors, like French doors, to make windows. And then another example of a trailer that became established there, and then now it's a home, permanent home. There's a very Baroque house there, and then here close to me is this syndrome. They exemplify the way we built in Mexico. The same thing happened to my father. You know, we were 3 kids, and he made a house flat. We know the roof was flat because he was going to build another floor on top. So he never built the floor, and we all grew, and we went away, and he doesn't need the second floor anymore. But you always see those columns of metal, because we are always willing to do the next room. We don't like to buy a house, or well, some of us, not everybody, you know, to buy a house and be paying it for 30 years, 20 years. It's nothing that is very common in Mexico. So you get your money and you start building something, and you're building on your dream little by little. You know? So this guy, even though he's not finished with the wood part on the top, he already painted the facade of the house. So he knows that he wants it red and blue. And this other guy, he says, well, why go to Florence if I can bring Florence and I can have David there looking into the Tijuana. So over there, all we're missing is the trees to be Aspen, Colorado. And then we need some people to go to church here. But he's pretty sure that he's got the white French doors to welcome everybody. That over there is meat hanging in a wire in a place where it intends to be a nice building with a metal frame and concrete. But in the meantime, the guy is hanging meat to dry over there with. And here is like a flea market or somebody is displaying the clothes in the street. And it can be funny for some people, but it's I see it because I look for those things, but we don't see it much in Mexico. Most of the people don't see it, and that really worries me sometimes when the case is really extreme, like in the houses that are really, really poor. But one thing that makes me we have hope is that there are a lot of the homes that I've been photographing for the last 10, 12 years. When I go back, they improved, or the people left the place and then went to another place to buy a real house or to build a better house. So maybe the idea behind doing these houses like that and not putting much money on them or finishing them really, really good at the beginning is because they have always the hope and the willingness to look for a better future somewhere else and get off that neighborhood. Comparing them with the ones that I've seen in South Africa, they are really with poor materials as well, but they are perfectly painted and perfectly finished, maybe because they think that it's going to be really, really hard to get off there. And here, this region is supposed to be a place for hoping or making your dreams come true. But we in Mexico, we tend to keep things Mexican as well. We fight for our identity. So that car that is supposed to be a car that's moving around, like a delivery roach coach for burgers or whatever, we transform that in a taco stand. So now it's there, And this other one, we painted in our own colors. And it's also static, it's not moving anywhere. So even though we have the potential, we use like electricity to provide electricity for the big maquiladoras that come to Mexico to produce and give work to the people in Tijuana cheap prices, while in the neighborhoods, people has to steal the electricity, just putting a wire into the main wire, and then to get electricity to their families. That is very dangerous, during the rainy season. Kids get hurt because they are playing outside while all the wires are on the ground, getting wet, and that's really sad. So those are some images of Tijuana, the Tijuana that I want to portray, because there's a lot of nice places. I invite you to go to the good places if you want, and go to this one if you want as well. But the whole point is to exemplify that we are the same ones that did that piece over there, and the same ones that keep dreaming for a house, even like this one. And the whole idea of when I started to taking these photographs is because I was invited in 1994 to make a project for Insight. The piece was called Century 21, and then I had to go and take photographs to make one house that I want to replicate and put in a cultural center in Tijuana. So that's the house I came with, and I put in the Centro Cultural. That's actually the piece that I did. It's not a house that I stole or brought or bought. It's something that I did with the help of a lot of friends. And then what we did, basically, we took the plaza of the Centro Cultural, the exterior plaza, and then we poured 2 trucks of dirt to make the floor like the real one. And then I start putting the walls that I prefabricated in my father's shop. And then people start pitching in elements for the house to be more real. Once I thought I was finished with it, somebody came with a little plant or something to add to it. So I titled it Century 21, that like the developer. And It had the interior that you can see, all the elements in the interior. You could go into the piece, sit over there, and then watch television. I had a TV set on 24/7, and I had food in the fridge, a little bit of food. So people ate the food. People used the latrine outside. We had 3 people that left their mark over there, and people were sleeping also in the bed, and changing diapers, living over there. But the house basically was very clean. It was about being poor, not about being filthy or dirty. Everything was really preserved, and it was had a lot of success because people kept getting in and being in the home. And in front of the piece, I had this set of plans that I made, computerized plans, floor plans of the house. It was very hard to make them because to make crooked plans in a computer is very hard. But I had them over there, and I also had the permits to build the house, actually real permits that I went on and I asked for them in the city, and I paid and I bribed people to get them. And then they never asked where it was going to be built. So somehow the piece exposed the way that the urbanization in Tijuana is made, and how much corruption is in the city. And this here is just 4 panels that I had on the side that just show the perception that different people had about the same problem. So on the very top is the way I see those houses, the people that are really is touched or really sensitive about it. We'll see them in Technicolor, with bright colors. And this, the one just below, is a drawing in black paper made with pencil. So it's the same image, but you have to put a lot of attention to see it. You have to really, really focus on it to see what it is inside. So that's Century 21. Well, this is another piece that I called 187 Pairs of Hands. It's based on the Proposition 187 that was strong here in California in 1996, and attempt to limit the rights of the Mexican migrant or any migrant that came to the United States. So I went and took 187 photographs of 187 people doing 187 different jobs, all in California. So I placed them on the floor over these metal plates covered with acrylic, plastic, and like if they were tombs or tumbas, or I don't know how you say that, tombs. And so you were able to go around them, around this box that you can see back there. And that box was containing 4 sculptures that were representing the work of the migrant in California. And then while walking in that little path, you could see all these people making 187 different jobs. And I had this desk with a book that had the contacts, printed contacts of every people that I photographed, and also information about the people. So I had this book with the slips, so you could read there the name, not the last name, but the name only, and age, place of birth, the kind of work they do, date of entrance to the U.S., and the migratory status they hold. So some of them lied. Some of them didn't want me to provide this information to the INS or whatever. They were not very trustful. Some of them told the truth. But the whole point was for me to get and bolt this book into the big desk, which represented for me establishment, and then you were able to go and see who to whom belonged those hands. So these are the kind of photographs that I took. You could never see the face. It was about to prove one point with 187 elements, and then just reduce to the minimum, which is just the working power, the hands, the work. But I had politicians, I had musicians, I had artists, doctors, scientists, I had people working in the fields, people working in construction. I had to like go back again to work in construction to be able to every day after work go and take pictures of different people and then accomplish the piece. those are the kind of sculptures that I had inside. So I had 6 holes in the container, the same size of the metal plates, and you could see through the holes what it was inside. You're supposed not to be having access to that work. The work was static. But once you see the images on the floor, you knew that we are in it. We are part of the fabric of California, and we are very, very intricate in the netting of this society. Then this is a piece in Mexico City. It's called the Comeback Highway. So I was invited to make a piece in the Zócalo. This is like the central part of Mexico. That is the office of the President of Mexico, and this is called Plaza de la Constitución or Zócalo. And underneath there is the old Tenochtitlan. So I was invited to do a piece there, and I did a road. A small road that mimicked the road between Los Angeles, California, and Mexico City. So by putting 50 boxes of wood together, then I took them all the way to Mexico City, and then I had people helping me to mix the concrete. Then in Mexico, 4 guys from Mexico City, and we poured the whole road, the small road. Then I walk from the box that represented Tijuana all the way to Mexico, while that other people walk in the opposite direction from Mexico City, but all the way to LA, not stopping in Tijuana. And then, so while the concrete obviously was still fresh. So it has a double meaning, you know. I was working with this idea of the Chicano, you know, or the Mexicano from Mexico City coming back to Aztlán. You know, the people coming from Mexico City is coming back to where we supposedly started walking down into Mexico City to the valley where we found this rock with a cactus and an eagle devouring a snake. And then we created the Great Tenochtitlan. Or these people supposedly came from the north. So these guys that I choose to walk, they were representing that. But myself, I was going back to my father and mother homeland in the center of Mexico. So in my lifetime span, that was my trip back. And also I was building another layer on top of the Tenochtitlan, the Aztec city, then the colonial city, and then I was putting another layer on the very top. Then in the same, I'm not going chronologically in some of these projects, but like since this past one is connected with this, the other one had 13 cities, important cities in the road, and then the distances. And this as well is something that I did for the Havana Biennale in 2000. And that one over there is the real sign of Havana, Cuba. The street signs. And I made a piece, a couple of pieces for the Biennale, in which I had these 2 poles. We had 10 boxes each, of aluminum boxes. In one side, I have a city and the distance from Havana to that city, specific city, let's say New York, 3,000 miles, whatever. And then in the other side, I have a quotation from somebody from this city that represents the spirit of that city. So from New York, I had time is money, Benjamin Franklin. So that I contrasted with another box from other person from Caracas or from. So you could see that in the same pole, at the same time, there were 10 ways of seeing life, 10 different idiosyncrasies, you know, surviving or living together. And then some of them were totally opposite to the other ones. That was particularly important because like I was putting this in a place that you cannot go to other country. So being in Havana, being from Havana, and then seeing all these directions and all these cities and all these distances, and not being able to go to that place, it was quite hard. And also was hard to read all these ways of thinking and being able to think about like that, agreeing with one specific way to see life, but not being free to express your opinion or your disagreement with the regime or whatever. It had a little bit of censorship with one box that came from the one, particularly the one from Moscow. We disagree, but they allowed the piece to stay for 2 weeks, and then they took the top box out. Well, that's another. I had one inside the big fortification, it's called El Morro, and I had another one in the entrance of the fort. This is a piece that I call, the show that I call Love as First Language. It's based on another proposition of law in California. The one they aimed to limit education in Spanish for kids. That was like in 1999. And so instead of going into the debate of what is first, English, because most of the people speak English, or Anglos here in California, or Spanish, because there's a treaty between the two countries that says that Spanish was going to be respected as an official language in California, because we were first here. Well, instead of going into that debate, I said, well, why don't we speak love as a first language instead of this language or the other one? So for that, I just made a story. I wrote like a little children's story in which we all speak love at the beginning. And so the story was about to treat adults as little children. So once you enter the room and you read the story, you can come down to a small age and try to understand. So in my story, there were two brothers. One is Sing Sing, that is the one over there in red, and the other one is Acorazado. And they were the same because they had no skin, no bones. They only smell each other. They had no word. And then once one group of hearts wanted to build this huge and humongous tower, and then one god just destroyed the tower and make it fell down, and then they discovered they were different, and they start speaking and using the word. And once they use the word, they realize I'm more powerful than you, or I'm brighter than you, and then the history of the world evolved from that. So mainly that was what I was trying to say with that. And I had another couple of pieces. The one that is like a fountain, like a heart as well, that says lengua para expresarnos, language to express ourselves, corazón para comprendernos, heart to understand ourselves. And that was a piece that had water in, and then just cried and bleed and ejaculated and sweat down and collect again the water and then do it again and again. And then on the floor I had another piece that had around 200 different writing characters from 6 different languages or systems of writing. So I have letters that are in Greek, letters that are in Hebrew, letters that are in Russian or in Latin or in Chinese, and they are all thrown into this circle of silica sand, just supporting one to the other, and then collapsing one to the other and oppressing one to the other. And so that piece is called the ruins of Babel, and the whole show was kind of exemplifying the story that I wrote. So you had to read the story in order to understand what every character, what was the role of every piece. And the one that looked like a cage, that was like the Latino heart. And then the other one, the oppressive one, the one that was more militaristic, that was the Anglo one. Sorry to tell that, that's the truth. But it's, like the Aztecs, we come from a country where we had our main culture, one of our main cultures was the Aztec culture, and we were oppressing the other weaker countries. So that's the story of the universe. It's not something that is new. It's been like that forever. Then I did this show that I call Oro por Espejos, and then it's about Mexico. So it's gold for mirrors in the eyes of the Mexico that hasn't learned yet how to see itself. So this piece on the wall is about how we Mexicans perceive ourselves and how we should perceive ourselves, and have we had the time to see ourselves at the mirror. And this is based basically in this event when the Spaniards arrived to to America, and they trade pieces of glass to the Indians, to the Aztecs, or whatever, whoever they found, and then they collect gold from them. And then once we get these mirrors that we were being given, I think that we felt that we were tricked right away, and then we grabbed the mirror and we destroyed it, and we didn't have the time to look at ourselves and then really admire what great culture we had, how strong we were, how important culture we were. So that's why I did that piece. This other piece is a bed. It's a card bed that it's made with iconography from the Aztecs and also the Spanish at the same time. It's a mixed Baroque. And then in the center I have this mattress that is made with 2,000 nails and represents the silhouette of Mexico, the surface of Mexico. So especially this one is called the presidential bed. And then that was made in the 2000 when we were having the elections. So this was the bed in which Mr. Vicente Fox was going to sleep, or the other guy, And then I think he's sleeping in this one because it's really been tough to handle Mexico these last 3 years. It's another view. That's called the Three Mexicos. So just a cross represents Christianity and also the pagan religions caged into this Christianity that makes a new Mexico. And that is called the presidential chair. And that other one is called Caoba Chechan, the treasure. When there's nothing inside, there's no treasure. The treasure has already been taken off already. Well, this is the piece it ended up traveling with me or I traveled with it to the Biennale in 2000 in the Whitney. It's called Stripes and Fence Forever, an homage to Jasper Jones. And then originally I made it for the Biennale in Monterrey, Mexico. So there is in Monterrey inside the gallery, and here is at the Whitney Museum outside in the sculptural court. So basically it's this that replicates the fence. Was painted like the American flag, and then it was like manipulated chemically to look like the fence that divides the two countries. And it's placed over this square that has two walls of brick and then ground that represents Mexico. And in the back it has two walls made out of cinder block, that represents the U.S. So one is baked and uneven and red in color. The other one is square, is even, is perfect. And that's. Then since I was speaking on the American flag in the U.S., I said it's fair enough to pick on my own flag. We have a lot of problems in Mexico as well. So I did that flag that is over there on top. There is I separated the colors of the flag in 3 different panels. And like you want to separate in Mexico the 3 different powers, the judges, the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. That never happened in 70 years in Mexico before that. And then what I did, I manipulated the seal, and this one here is the original one, and that other one is the one that I did, in which I elongated the snake. So in my seal, the snake is biting back the eagle as well. So the name of that piece was called, it is Democracy 2000. So it was also on the verge of the elections in Mexico, and I want to make sure that the eagle was not going to fly again with all the money like every 6 years. This is a recent piece that I did in Santiago de Chile. Maybe something that I would not ever do close to the border, because that's working on the same element again. But I was invited to do something without taking anything, so I had to improvise there while there, because it's too expensive to take work up down to Chile. So they gave me that site over there, and then I came out with this 30-meter long replica of the fence that divides the two countries. And I placed these 11 pillows underneath, white pillows. But that was like maybe too metaphoric, too obvious. So I decided to make another line So if you see next to the wall, I have another line which is also 30 meters. And that line has 100 photographs of Tijuana first, and then 100 photographs of Santiago. So what I did, I for the last 3 days before I went there, I took photographs of Tijuana, and I came up with 100. And then once I arrived there, I took another 100 and I placed them there. And there's parts on the display in which you cannot see which is Santiago and which is Tijuana. What I was trying to do here was a reverse trip, starting at the fence and then going down, making the trip to the south instead of the trip to the north. You know? And this fence is a fence that I carry with me. That's why it's there, like I don't know, like a ghost, crushing dreams. So I had one photo, a text, 99 photographs, a text, 99 again, a text, and then one photo divided. That's inverted, no? This is maybe the most famous or important piece that I have done so far. That was for 1997 Insight. I was invited again. So I decided to make this piece that I call Trojan horse. There is like sort of a Trojan horse that I placed right on top of the line that divides Mexico and the U.S. So there you have here you have the horse, and then underneath a plate that says boundary between Mexico and the U.S. And it has two heads. And it's obvious that what I'm trying to say is we are invading each other, and we want to keep invading each other for a long time. That's the making of it. Go one more, please. We were putting it together in a friend's place, and then we just move it to the place in different parts, and then just put it, assemble it together in the border itself. I think when we made our calculations, and we thought that like around 12 to 13 million people saw that piece during 1 year that lasted over there at the border. Plus, it was replicated in many publications. There it is. Okay. So that's the maquette. If you ask yourself how this guy sustains himself or how he makes a living, I do maquettes. So that's a maquette, and then a painting, again with the theme of the border. And then this is a map of Tijuana, San Diego with topography and things that I have these little things that tell stories about things that are happening. This, like ideograms, like the ones that you find in the freeway. So that way you can, without knowing any Spanish or English, you can like have an idea of what is going on in that neighborhood. One more here. Okay. Well, now going into the dealing with projects that deal with violence, this is called PlayStation. That was for the University of Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And then I was invited to do a project on the campus, so I came up with this idea of making like a jungle gym. There was sort of a concentration camp, very, very dark project, very violent. So I made the thing that looks like very friendly, but once you get close to it. So there it is. I first made the piece, and then we surrounded with this chain link. Okay. So the whole point was that I have these kids that just got in. I have 3 kids. They are very much into games, like video games, and they are killing each other every day. And then once I saw that, I was kind of worried, and then the idea came to me to make something about it, and that's why I call it PlayStation. I did something, instead of being just virtual, something very, very graphic, very physical, in which you can see that there's danger within the piece, and you see the piece, But then as soon as you get close to it, you assume or you understand that if you allow your kids to play and something like that, they're going to get hurt. So the proof for this piece came at the day of the opening, because at the opening there were a couple of kids that wanted to desperately, they were dying to go inside. So this piece specifically had not much attention when we opened the show, but after 2 weeks after I did the PlayStation piece, we came down here, and then the massacre of Columbine happened, and then they went back to review the piece, and then it came out on the television, because somehow it was like a premonition of what happened, and because it was placed on a university campus. So this is at the Turralde Gallery, the same piece that you saw here. There I had this other piece as well, which is called Skin Colors, and it's just also eye charts, and with different colors and by different people of different races, one quotation each. So here, this is the last I'm showing, and this is a graveyard in Mexico, in Tijuana, Mexico, in which I've been taking photographs of that place, because now our culture, it's been modified by the culture that comes from the north or from everywhere. So we have this cult for the dead in Mexico, and we have a specific way to celebrate that. But lately in Tijuana, the people is being putting in the altars not only the bread that we used to put, or the sugar candy, but as well they've been putting the toys of the little kids and making these altars and little installations and in the graves. So that's Pokemon. That's a Harley Davidson, Elmer. It's not a big deal. So this is what they do. So what I've been doing, I've done so far 7 live boxes with these images. So the intention is to present them like if it were a replica of the graveyard, having the tombstone or the light box on the floor, and then having a video as well, and the sound of the Day of the Dead in the space. And then here you have this mix, as I said, from very Catholic and Christian iconography with the popular iconography from Japan, from the US, that shows something that I thought it was only in Tijuana, but I went to Chile and went specifically to Valparaiso. Once I showed these images, they told me in Valparaiso it's the same phenomenon happening, and so I took some images as well there. Well, this is just, I choose always these images at the end just to say something that, even to live and to die, you always live and die different in the border. Thank you very much. Well, if you want to throw me rocks or ask me questions, I'm here. And for me, if one person is moved by the work, and then that's just finding somebody that thinks the same way that I do. Just today, the first or second person that got into the installation way before we started with the opening was this lady that she said that I just started to study art, but I feel really moved by the piece, and she started kind of like crying, and that's like very important, if you add one and one and one and one, it will make a difference. And that was also with that 187 pairs of hands piece that I opened that piece, I inaugurated that piece in Tijuana the same day that the Republican Party made the convention here in San Diego in 1996. And so I was having that piece, and they were having the convention here in the U.S. And I didn't do that because I thought that with my piece we want to make everybody to think different, But I was really glad. There were many people concerned about the same issue because at the end the law didn't pass. So I felt that I did the right thing in the moment that was needed. The same thing happened with this piece that I'm presenting now here. This is the fourth time that I presented, and I made that piece, and I imagined and made it while the war was not still going on. Everybody was getting prepared for the war, and there was a lot of comments and then marching people in New York, and so I had to do the piece. Well, it really meant something, when really meant not when Mr. Bush is out of the office, or that doesn't make a point. You have to stand up and do whatever you want to do when you feel that you have to do it. And so for me, that's just doing it is good, Well, I do paint a little bit, here and there. I just throw one line or color, but I like it's the way that I can express myself better. And then it's for me doing that is like playing, like enjoying myself a lot, And then if I get to another type of expression of I do only photography, there'll be like a lot of stress for me because there's a lot of photographers that I admire a lot, and then so I try to combine mediums, and then whenever an idea comes to my mind, I just try to find the best way, the best medium, the best materials that I can use to accomplish and then portray it and then translate that into my work and then that into the minds of the other people. So that's why I'm always going to be an installation artist, and then have get the permission, give me permission to paint, to take photographs, to do sculpture, to do different media, But the whole thing is to enjoy it. Maybe this is like the third audience, and I've been showing my work in different places. And back in Virginia, let's say, I had an audience as big as this, and during the war, nobody threw me anything, and some people, a lot of the people agree, others disagree, but they treat me really, really good. But they didn't ask at the beginning. I had to start asking the questions. So in different places, it's different way. In Chile, when I went to do that piece, I had the opportunity to go to the National School of Arts of the Republic of Uruguay, very fancy name for a school. But there was also a big crowd, and they were really, really asking and proposing, being even strong against the policy of the U.S. or my points of view. That is different in different places. But I'm amazed. They have never been attacked or offended because I come to the U.S. mainly and talk about the things that I like or want to talk about. So I think maybe it's because I always talk to educated people, like in universities. And I don't know if they don't want to make fun of themselves by asking something or disagreeing with me in front of many people, but I have had very good questions, and I just try to answer them, But basically in a one-to-one base, people know what's going on, and then I try to use facts in my work. See, there's where I pulled my background as a lawyer. So when I did the 187 pairs of hands, those were real people, and I took 187 photographies, documents that prove a point. So it's when it comes down to that, it's very hard to argue, but you can still do it. I became involved in art like strongly around 1990, and then my relationship with art before was with painters, in painting, and I knew some of the work, and I know more of the work now that I'm doing my work. I've been seeing some more books because I have to be in touch with it. But the thing is that being in Tijuana, I found that there was these strong movements, Chicano movements, and the border art workshop, but there was maybe no voice from somebody that lived in Tijuana, that was born and raised in Tijuana, and that was seeing the problem from Tijuana. And I find that like a lot of the people that grew with me, that are mainly painters and sculptors, they didn't want to deal with the issues of the border. And they are mainly professionals, dentists, and they also paint, doctor and also paint, and some other people like that. And then since I had this within me, and I had to cross every day to come to work, and the border was part of me, I had to say something. And then for a lot of them, it was like, you should not take that. You should go like more universal. You should deal with subjects that are more, important for everybody, not just something that is the border. And I said to them, this border that reflects that other border and that other, because there's pieces like the horse that you can place anywhere in the world that is a border and it will have a meaning. And I did it because of my particular problem or subject, but that will work in Palestine and will work in Berlin. And of course I've seen work from David Avalos, from Ochoa, from many of the artists, and I appreciate a lot of that. It's like, you have to do what you have to do, because that's you cannot avoid it. We were talking with some of the people here before, that it's better to be, for me, it's better to be authentic than original. I don't want to be original and doing something else because everything is done. I'd rather attack the subject, the matter subject that I want to attack, the way that I know how to do it, and then maybe eventually being authentic become original. I think every time that I have a different idea, it ends up being the same idea, and then I make it in a different way, because for me the light boxes, even though there are images of graves of kids, with these altars, it's the same piece as the horse. It's just these two cultures invading the other one. So American pop culture in Mexico, and then maybe we are having the same fiestas in the U.S., and it's the same as the same thing that is the horse saying, And then if you go back to the other piece, the piece in Chile, I was trying to find the same similarities or differences between the Chilean culture and in my city. But I just grabbed the idea, and then as I said, I just go and try to find the materials that will make me able to portray it or do it. But then when I got the idea, right away I have like 80% of the piece in me. And then it will be done and can be transformed up to the last minute. I can go 15 minutes before I open the show and then move something. And so, because I'm very visceral as well. I try to contradict. I try for many times to contradict my professor. They said, you have to do work as George Baselich. You would grab an axe and just destroy wood and paint backwards and whatever. And I said, hey, give me a break. Let me do something thoughtful and something deep. But I cannot deny that I'm also able to do things like that just because I want to reach it and grab it and transform it. Sometimes looking back, I say, I would have done this more to this other piece. And sometimes not much in the conception, but sometimes in the fabrication of the piece. And but I was happy with the piece, and like the comeback highway. But the only thing is that it only lasted like 2 days in Mexico City, because I tried to use a system to put foam underneath the concrete to make it lighter and to not use that much concrete. So people started like jumping on the piece in the plaza, and then suddenly it was pieces of concrete everywhere and foam, and But it worked very well as an action and as a performance, because people were there almost wanting to pay money to walk into the. How much it costs to walk for it's for free, But I didn't want that many footsteps, because also I wanted these boxes to have the steps, because something that I forgot to tell you, you cannot explain the whole piece in 2 words. But the Mexican, the Aztec graphics or the way to portray movement, and the codices of the Aztecs, that was by putting footprints. So the Aztecs painted footprints going in this direction, that was implying movement. So I was doing this same thing, according, I think, in concrete, 400 years, 500 years after, and on top of this colonial thing. So there was a whole lot of things. But there's some pieces that I like more, like the bed. I don't put nothing else on the bed. It's something that I like a lot, or the American flag. I was invited to make up a public piece in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is an hour away from Philadelphia. And so I went there and I selected the place that I want to work with, and then I just talked to my curator and I asked him, I have an idea, but I'm going to send you a developed, written idea of what I want to do. But I had a very good conversation with him, and then I investigate about him through him, and I knew that he was very open and liberal guy. So I proposed to him to make a big billboard sign right next to an exit street from Reading. This exit street that goes over a bridge and then gets into a highway. And then right next to that is a big commercial billboard that looks like a sign, a billboard, official billboard sign. And then I proposed to make this billboard that has 8 cities of the world, then the distances from Reading, Pennsylvania to those cities, and then a specific year at the very end. So I submitted, he liked it, and he proposed it to the city council. And then once they found out that those were 8 cities that were bombarded by the American forces since 1847 up to now, that was Kabul, that was Dresden, that was Mexico City, that was Baghdad, that was Hanoi, and then they just panic and they say, well, no way we're going to do this. So that they deny it, and they could deny me the right to do it officially, but they convinced the owner of the billboard structure to forbid me to make it. So what I did, I said to the curator, go with a camera, with a digital camera, and take a photograph of the billboard in the street from a long range, and send me the photograph. So with that image that he took, I inserted with Photoshop my design into the billboard, and we blew that the size of a billboard, big. But then we had to place it inside the museum because we were not allowed to use the structures. So that became a part of the show inside, and that's a show. It's a piece that is growing, continuing, because now I want to make a booklet with the response of the people, because by censoring, the way they censor the pieces by bringing it in the front page of the newspaper, and they had 400,000 copies of the image. They went all over the Reading, Pennsylvania. Everybody was drinking their coffee, reading the paper in the morning. Oh my God! So they make it like a big deal. Then Alessandra's husband made me a nice essay about it, and some other people made essays about the piece. So suddenly I had this big exposure, and it ended up being in 600 publications around the world. But so what they intended to censor became bigger, but the censorship existed. When I was invited in '94, I was really, really lucky, because that was the first important invitation for Insight. There was this big exhibition of international artists coming to Tijuana. And then that was kind of uneven, because there were people that were getting like $25,000 to make a project, while in the Mexican side, I was getting $1,300 to make the house. But the thing is that I wanted to make it. So I grabbed the $1,300, and then I just went to my savings, grabbed some money, asked for things that was made with things that you can throw away. So a lot of people was glad to grab their garbage and then give it to me so I could display it, Then by doing that piece and losing money, I gained a little bit of respect, because it was very well reviewed and came in very important magazines. And then I had the opportunity to be in the next exhibition. Then they gave me $15,000 to make the horse, which I used everything, because that was $10,000 plus $5,000 for honorarium that I used in making the piece. That's how obsessed I am, So do not keep insisting in this thing, because my wife is going to kill me because the kids are the ones that suffer for me using all the money back again in the work. But maybe soon I'll have more money. I'm going to be in a position to ask for more money when I'm invited for the projects. And the way I survive, as I told you, I make series of maquettes of models of the pieces. Like I did a series of 10 models of the horse, which I sold already all of them, and that helps a lot. The ones that I was more direct, because I needed to be more direct because I disagree with the foreign policy, in terms of the war. I just again grab the facts and put the facts in this billboard. See what I do, like with the pieces of Havana and that piece in Reading, Pennsylvania. What I do, I use a system of communication that is always perceived as true, which is the highway, the governmental. If a sign says that you are going to LA in the right direction and it's 200 miles from here to LA, you will believe that, because they will not tell you that something that is wrong or false. So I use the same thing. Why? How I did it, I manipulated by making the billboard with facts that are historical facts. And I put the distances, the places, and the years. And then how can you object it? They could not object it in a true way. So they did it politically, or manipulating the owner of the billboard. And he said, if this guy puts this billboard and any other billboard or on the street, I will give free my billboards for people that opposes him to make billboards against him, like saying, we've been there and we are proud of it. So if that is not censorship, I don't know what it is. It's hard. It's very, very hard. That piece that you saw there, I again had to do it on time, and I met this guy. He's a curator from San Francisco a year before, and when I was going to do this, I remembered that he worked in an alternative space, very politically, socio-politically orientated. And I said, if I wait here, somebody to invite me to do a project against the war, nobody's going to come. No major institution is going to call me. So I went with him, and I told him, do you have a space for this project? Are you willing to do something with this? And he just told me, I got $1,000 for you, and I give you the space. And then I went to my gallery that somehow sells those maquettes and prints or whatever. And I said, are you willing to risk in this project? Are you willing to put it, after I put it in San Francisco, put it here? And since I'm going to put it in your gallery, will you help me a little bit? So they again gave me a little bit of money, but I ended up putting a lot because I was obsessed with making that. But hopefully it will get me to a point in which I'm going to get offers to do something in which I'm going to get more money, or I'll kill myself. And I don't know what to answer to the first question. I think you have a feeling of the space. If you are like oriented to sculpture, maybe it's going to be easier for the people that is more tridimensional to work with space and work with the site and then respond to a site. It's very hard. I just think you just got to go out and try it and expose, because exhibiting is exposing yourself, and then try again and try again. It's not only there, not only in Tijuana. It's a lot, but it's something that bleeds in as well. Like it started, I don't know where, but mainly I've seen it before in LA and then coming down to San Diego. But then the same people that live, a lot of Mexican people that lives in Los Angeles, going back to the states in the center of the Republic, it was a shock for me not seeing it in Tijuana, seeing it in Guanajuato or seeing it in other places that I was not used to see it. And in Tijuana, it was a very hard subject because there's, it's a way of expression, but then in Tijuana, it's really hard because they have no very much choices, and then seems to me that maybe people will have more choices to express themselves here, or more materials or whatever. But in Tijuana, people do what that they can do. And the other day I found, in the show in the museum, it's a very interesting project that deals with this issue. There's this artist from Portland, Oregon, that does this movie about the people that covers the graffiti with paint, with patches of paint. So he ends up making abstract painting on top of the graffiti. You know, like I don't know, maybe I suggest that in Mexico, but I don't have an answer of how, why. You know, I think it's about economical and socio-economical reasons. Thank you. Water, please. Thank you.